What's going on YouTube? I'm David Stewart.
And I'm Sniff. And we're here today with, obviously, David Stewart, in case you haven't seen him. Also, hello to everybody on Instagram. I know if you're tuning in live, that'd be great. But if not, it's whatever, right? Because we're just doing this for fun. But since we have David Stewart here today, and it's kind of an awesome, momentous occasion, in case you don't know, David Stewart is actually the malt master at Balvenie. So what's your day job?
My day job is looking after the quality and the consistency of the Balvenie whiskey. I mean, I'm responsible for the quality of the whiskey inside every bottle of Balvenie. So I do a lot of nosing and sampling. I look at the new spirit when it comes off the stills and make sure that whiskey goes into the correct quality casks. I then select the casks that will create any one of our different expressions, sample all the single barrels. So my job is making sure that the quality inside every bottle of Balvenie is consistent and of the top quality.
That's awesome, because the consistency of Balvenie and just the honey notes are like exactly what we love. So okay. I'm just going to get you to sign this, if you would please.
Yes.
So this is a bottle that was for you, right? The 17?
It was
17
Doublewood. 2012, in my 50th year with the company.
That's
we
awesome.
also did a 1962, then the year I started with the company. We bottled a 50-year-old Balvenie in 2012 as well.
That's awesome.
But we've done a number of 17-year-olds, but this, okay.
Now it should be writing.
But we've done a number of 17-year-olds, so this is now part of the Balvenie range.
That's perfect.
17-year-old Doublewood.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I did have a whole series of questions, but like my camera guy said, since I've forgotten most of them, I will just wing it. One of the questions I did want to ask you is, in terms of hobbies, like when you're not sipping whiskey, what are you doing?
Okay. Well, I'm semi-retired now, so I do have a little spare time now. So occasionally my wife and I go holidays. I live in Glasgow. We have a caravan down in the Lake District in England, so we go down there from time to time and do a bit of walking.
That's cool.
We've got bikes down there, which I do a little bit of cycling from time to time. I enjoy watching football. I was born in Ayr, which is south of Glasgow, so I support a football team called Ayr United. So, so I like walking, and I've got a big garden back home. I like watching football. But I mean, my life has been Scotch whisky. I mean, I'm approaching my 55th year now in the Scotch whisky industry, and with the William Grant & Sons in September, I'll have been with the company 55 years. So a long time to be working with our. But I've had such a unique role in the Scotch whisky industry, being a malt master blender. And the industry employs thousands of people, but there's only about maybe 12 of us that are doing the job that I do, so I've been very lucky to have this very unique role.
That was one of the questions that I know that I had. In terms of working here for 55 years this year, when did you know you were going to be doing this for 55 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I joined the company, I never knew that I was actually going to end up doing this anyway. I mean, I was very lucky. I just joined as a whisky stocks clerk, and my boss was the master blender. And so I did a lot for the first couple of years or so. I did quite a lot of clerical work, just marking off. Didn't have any computers in these days. It was just marking off registers, stock registers. And so eventually he took me into the sample room and started to tell me about whisky and what I should be looking for, and started to nose whisky. Obviously back in the 60s we had very limited expressions. It was mainly our Grant's blended whisky, and we just started a bottle of Glenfiddich. But I mean, I could see that as I was getting this training, that there was no one else in the company getting this training, that if I could master this nosing aspect, because I spend most of my time nosing the whisky, so if I could master this, then I might have a good chance of getting a very unique role in the industry. And that's what happened. He decided to leave the company in 1974, 12 years after I joined, and very quickly after I got the job, which I did for the next 35 years, the master blender for William Grant, looking after Glenfiddich and Balvenie and Grant's blended whisky. So yes, I just kind of fell into it by accident, but I seem to have the necessary attributes and the nosing aspect, and been able to kind of innovate and and experiment, and that's allowed us to release a number of kind of limited editions over the years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. So another weird question I had was, in terms of your favorite bottle, like when you sit down and go home and you're thinking like, I just want to relax and have something to sip on, what do you tend to drink?
Yeah, well, no, that's a question I get asked a lot. I mean, my favourite Balvenie is the Balvenie Portwood, 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
It's it's won a lot of awards for us, but it's just the combination of that 21-year-old whiskey with these old tawny port casks. It's just a lovely whiskey to at the end of an evening, after dinner, after a nice dinner, or if you're out for dinner, if you want to order a whiskey at the end of a dinner. It's a lovely whiskey to have at that time of night. So it's not something I would be drinking on a regular basis, but it's my favourite Balvenie. I'm very proud of it, and I really enjoy just the combination of that whiskey and the port casks.
It's because it tastes awesome. I think we all know that. So we are here on like a special event with the rest of, you've got your brand ambassador Balvenie Gem here. We have the Scotch Father who's also here, who has graced us with the beautiful presence of this bottle. In case you guys can't see, Cask 191. I know you've already done this because we were a little live earlier, but can you go ahead and tell us about this bottle?
Yes, well, this is 50-year-old. This is a cask that was filled in 1952, and we bottled it in 2002. So this is a European oak hogshead. So we're not quite sure the history of the cask because it's so old. Back even 10 years before I joined the company, the whiskey was filled into this cask. But you can see from the colour of it, it's obviously been a European oak. It's been bottled at 45. It's a natural strength of it. This is the natural colour. It's very dark, and it's quite spicy. It's the second 50-year-old. We bottled a 50-year-old in the late 90s. We bottled which was a marriage of a few different casks. This is one single cask from 1952, and the cask number was 191. So we start at number 1 at the beginning of every year. So this is obviously one that was filled very early in 1952. Although back in 1952 we wouldn't be filling the number of casks that we're filling in 2017. Tiny amount of casks probably. So yeah, it's produced a very unique Balvenie, a very spicy Balvenie, dark chocolate, bitter chocolate, a bit of licorice, cocoa, all these lovely flavours. But on the palate, it's lovely and sweet and fruity, but it's got that intense sort of spiciness
from the sherry,
from the background. Yeah, it was more from the cask itself, more from that European oak, rather than the sherry itself.
Okay.
The sherry is a bit like the bourbon; it kind of takes away a little bit of the real oakiness. But to be fair, we're not even sure if sherry was in this cask.
Okay.
So, but European oak generally does produce not always as dark as that, but because this whiskey's been in the cask for 50 years, it's produced this very dark coloured whiskey.
Seriously, it's gorgeous. So let's go ahead and
okay.
Slanger.
So you can see there's a lot of sweetness in the mouth, quite sweet in the palate, long-lasting flavour, quite spicy, bitter chocolate, all these lovely sort of really spicy, rich, intense flavours.
That's
very different from
Balvenie's signature.
What you would know of Balvenie, because Balvenie is generally more this style, more honeyed and citrus. This is quite a unique.
This is bold. This is. Wow, it's almost like dark espresso. Like it's very punch you in the face. Wow.
It has.
Wow.
It does. Yeah.
It sneaks up on you. That's excellent.
You like it? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Enjoy it. No, thank you.
It's definitely pretty good. Poop. Other questions. A lot of my questions didn't have anything to do with Scotch actually, and I know I know Gemma definitely ran you through some of them, but I can't think of any now. So I'll just kind of think of regular questions to ask you.
Okay, fine.
So. If you weren't in this industry, in this business, what would you be doing?
Well, I get asked that as well. I mean, I think I might have tried to become an airline pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
You like flying
planes? I'm fascinated with airplanes, and my grandson's fascinated with airplanes as well. He's got about 50 or 60 model airplanes. So I think I would like to maybe be an airline pilot if I had to been a
That's kind of cool.
been a master blender in the Scotch whisky industry, but I think I've been very lucky to end up with what I was doing. You know, I've been very fortunate working for our family company and working with such great whisky. It's made my job a little bit easier.
And I guess my last question will be, how much longer do you think you'll be doing this?
Well, another good good question. Well, I mean, I've not, well, I've no definite plans. I mean, I work on average 2 days a week. You know, some week like this week, I'm working all week. Next week, I've got a couple of days. The following week, I'm doing nothing. So I've got quite a so it's just as things come up. But generally, I do about 100 days working on Balvenie in the year.
That's still
So I have no definite plans yet to give up, because I really quite enjoy it, and I enjoy meeting people like yourself who are really whisky enthusiasts. I mean, it's my job, but I meet so many people that who are so enthusiastic about Scotch whisky and single malts, and it's a hobby for them, and it's my job. So I find it quite fascinating to meet people like yourself who are really so enthusiastic about whisky and our whiskies.
Oh,
So I don't have no real plans yet, but I mean, I'd probably like to be.
I totally remembered. I lied. One more question. Last question, I promise. What's your favorite? Because like whiskey, especially Balvenie, like you guys had David Laird here before Gemma got here, and one huge thing you guys emphasize that I think is not always emphasized in the whiskey community, but it's really important, is that there are people behind this, and that there are stories behind this. So what's your favorite whiskey story?
Whiskey story. Right, that's a good question. Well, what's a favorite whiskey story? I mean, I've recently, well, back in 2007 when we opened our new distillery in Girvan called Eels of Bay. We've got a distillery in Girvan, a grain distillery called Eels of Bay. Prince Charles, who's the Queen's son, came out and opened the distillery for us. I met him in our still house, and we had a little dram of the new spirit together. And then more recently, getting awarded the MBE, I met our Queen in the Holyrood Palace, and we had a very short conversation about whisky. She knew, I worked at the whisky industry, so she asked me a little about whisky, and she said, "Do you like whisky?" I said, "Yeah, I do like whisky, but when I'm working, I'm actually nosing whisky. I'm nosing it. I looked at it, nosing whisky." I said, "Yeah, well, I'm actually sniffing it out of a whisky glass." "Oh, can you tell very much by nosing the whisky?" "Yeah, well, because I'm a trained noser, I'm nosing so many whisky. There's so many whisky to assess. I need to." Can't be drinking them all, I need to nose. And I did laugh a little bit, She's never heard of this thing. I said, "Oh, really, I'm a whisky noser." And she kind of laughed at that. And so really, to meet Prince Charles, who could be our next king, and to meet the Queen, through working with the whisky industry has been really quite a proud moment for me.
That's awesome. All right, so that's it. We're just going to wrap it up now. Thanks for tuning in on Instagram, and see you on YouTube.